One of my proudest achievements in my career is the documentary I made about Black women who integrated pro wrestling in the 1950s. The documentary is called Lady Wrestler, and if you want to watch it, you can find it on Amazon Prime Video. I recently did a podcast interview, and the host asked me how these women inspired me. Now, I have to say, I've done a lot of different interviews about Lady Wrestler, and I don't think I'd been asked that question before about how the women inspired me personally. So the obvious answer is that these women encountered racism and sexism, and they didn't just encounter these obstacles, they overcame them and became world champions. And, as a man, while I don't have to deal with sexism, well, we all have to deal with, all people of color have to deal with institutional racism. So these women really inspired me with their tenacity, their strength, and their ability to triumph over the obstacles that would have held them back had they not been as strong as they were. So, of course, that's something that really inspires me about the women wrestlers, women like Babs Wingo, Ethel Johnson, and Marva Scott, the three sisters who were among the first to integrate pro wrestling. But actually, what I told the interviewer is that another way that these women inspired me is that they were traveling and working abroad internationally at a time when African Americans, it wasn't common for African Americans to do that. Yes, there were entertainers and I guess other athletes who had opportunities to work abroad. You had Josephine Baker and her famous work in Paris, including the banana dance, that she became world famous for in Paris. You had other jazz performers, music stars, actors who would work in nightclubs and concert halls and even movies overseas. But it wasn't really common for African Americans to get opportunities, for African Americans who weren't either athletes or entertainers to get opportunity, or weren't in the military. That's another pathway to work internationally if you're African American back in the day, back in the 50s, the era of these women wrestlers. And I told the interviewer that that is something that really inspired me about the women, because I consider myself a very cosmopolitan person. I've always had an interest in other cultures. And that's something that the women said when I interviewed them. Ramona Isbell talked about being interested in other cultures and getting opportunities to wrestle in Japan, and how she was really interested in their culture and how it was different from American culture that she'd been raised with. And so that really inspired me. And one thing that I told the interviewer is that one of my dreams is to make movies in Spanish, because I've been learning Spanish on and off for years. Want to become fluent just as sort of like a hobby. I've just been doing it as, just something that interests me. I've gotten into watching thrillers in Spanish on Netflix, and I would love to make a movie in Spanish with an Afro-Latino cast, or a cast of Black people who speak Spanish, because a lot of these thrillers, you don't see darker skinned Spanish speaking people of African descent. Mostly you tend to see, fairer skinned actors in these types of thrillers that are in Spanish. So that's one of my career goals, something that I aspire to. And working internationally, working abroad is definitely something that the women wrestling trailblazers inspired me to do. If you like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel.